Eccoci, siamo di nuovo in diretta per il nostro.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to our last appointment. Today, I'm here joined by our dear Ragno Lattuga. He's the director of the School of Alchemy, and so Ragno, first of all, Conte, and welcome. Convoy, everyone, and good evening. So in the meantime, I see that a lot of people are joining us, and as I was saying, we are now in our last appointment. The last appointment of this first edition of the Wisdom Week. An entire week dedicated to knowledge, consciousness, awareness, wisdom. Essentially a week focused on focusing the attention on ourselves, our growth, especially in this specific moment and day and age in which the society and the environment around us constantly distracts us and focuses our attention on useless things, or essentially wants us to focus more on a general sense of confusion rather than our own growth. So tonight we are going to talk about another very exciting and important topic. We are going to use a specific lens or filter, which is that of alchemy, and together we are going to explore and research in both a practical and useful point of view. So in terms of knowledge, we are going to explore the art of desiring. We briefly mentioned this in some of our other appointments. The art of desiring, the art of knowing how to activate the potentials inside us that can allow us to manifest, create, build, both inside and outside us, the reality we wish to live in. So, of course, tonight we are going to use a specific lens, like we said, which is that of alchemy, but our main focus is to discover our true, authentic desires. So not the ones perhaps influenced by the thousands of different signals that we receive from the society around us, but instead those that come from our soul, from inside us, and essentially those that could be our life missions. And so tonight I asked our dear Rania to join us. He's an extremely good alchemist, and I asked him to help us understand through the use of this specific discipline and knowledge, which is both ancient and modern. So through the use of alchemy, how we can be in control and use the art of desiring, how we can manifest it and use it through this specific and extraordinary knowledge. So let's just start, and as per usual, write all your questions in the chat. One quick reminder, toward the end of our appointment, we are now going to finally open and reactivate the possibility to sign up for our digital laboratory we call Wisdom Lab, which is essentially one big container full of tools, meditations, exercises, and knowledge that can be very beneficial and very useful. I said this at the very beginning. We decided to use this specific moment because we wanted to go a little against the current. So in this specific week, which is the week with the Black Friday, in which everyone tries to sell whatever they can, all kinds of devices, TVs and phones and etc. So the focus is on buying and buying more and more objects, perhaps not very useful for our life. We instead wanted to focus the attention on something a little different, something that offers us tools to create both inside and outside us, abundance, happiness, relationships, and etc. So, Ragno, we are ready. And we are here ready to ask you, from the point of view of alchemy and of an alchemist, how can you use the art of desiring? And can you help us experience this firsthand? Can you help us understand how to do all of this together with you and with alchemy? I'll leave it to you, and let's have fun, everyone. Well, thank you, Entello, and welcome, everyone. As Entello mentioned, I am Ragno Lattuga. I've been living in Damanhur for over 25 years, and I did this path, the alchemy path, directly with the founders, with Falco Tarassaco, and then I'm still on it because the research is still an ongoing research. We're still researching this topic, this discipline, with other alchemists as well. Now, this is both an ancient and a modern discipline because it really includes all of those topics that represent essentially the human evolution, starting from knowledge that are really extremely ancient ones, that are the very base of human nature, then adapted through each century and for each century, and essentially gradually adapted to become then useful for the human being of this specific century. The alchemy we focus on is called the alchemy of the New Age, of the Golden Age, a very special moment for our growth, a moment that has also been predicted by many different civilizations, and essentially a moment in which we talk about the restart of the human consciousness, the idea of once again moving it to a different kind of level, increasing it. Now, this was a brief introduction before we jump into today's topic, which is desires. Now, first of all, in the etymology of the word desire, which in the ancient language means to move away from the stars, to distance yourself from the stars. So first of all, imagine what that means and why desiring means to create distance between you and the stars. Well, the ancient civilizations really had a lot of attention reserved to the discipline of astrology, essentially reading the skies, especially the skies of when we are born. Why? Because in a moment in which a soul reincarnates and comes and arrives on this planet, what happens is that there is a sort of blueprint, a spiritual blueprint that codes the very characteristic of that soul, of that person, and the characteristics are essentially given by the stars. So they give us those sort of pedigrees at our birth that essentially list the way we are, all the characteristics that make us who we are. So far so good. We agree with the ancient civilizations. We all have a sort of direction, a sort of base that we can use as our foundation. But what does an alchemist do? The alchemist says, okay, it's true that perhaps I have and I'm born with all these characteristics and I can discover them, read them thanks to astrology and the stars. But then from there, I can also choose. And that is really the big revolution that alchemy brings. An alchemist learns to choose. So it's no longer a life dictated by other people, by our birth, by our family, our society, by our characteristics. Instead, it becomes a life that distances itself from the pre-established, predetermined path, and it really becomes a path chosen by the person themselves. And that's why we talk about this concept of distancing yourself from the stars, or rather from a pre-established, predetermined destiny. Now, this is important. So how, first of all, how can we learn to desire? How can we know which might be our true, authentic, and main desires? Because, like Antello mentioned, of course, we are constantly bombarded, surrounded by, for example, the mass media, by so many different things that make us desire things, that make us want things. But the desire in more ancient times was really the knowledge of our soul, because the desire was almost like the voice of our soul. When we desire something, it means that our soul is inspiring us to move towards a specific direction. So the true, real, genuine desire is the one we feel. We really feel it inside us, in our very cells. And then from there comes the power of desiring. Now, let's unveil or explain another myth. In the last few years especially, we've really talked a lot about this idea of attracting towards you many different things. It's almost like, well, it's essentially the concept of the secret, the magic of attraction and manifestation. In alchemy, this is almost seen as a law for children. Why? Because it's true that, of course, if we tune ourselves on a specific frequency, we can attract or recall, connect with a similar frequency. But the nature of the human being is something definitely a lot higher than that. It is something that from the alchemical point of view we define to be as of divine origin. That's why all of us have that divine spark, that divine fire that allow us to create. Starting from this fundamental concept, then, just like a sun that radiates the light, the nourishment, and life itself, just like that sun, every single one of us, we can all place ourselves back at the center and once again become that creating essence that doesn't really need anything or anyone else, but rather, thanks to all their vitality, can manifest whatever it wants. And here we're really entering in the field of desires, because the desire is nothing but the mirror of our soul. We desire so as to be able to move a little closer to the potential of expressing what our soul, what our nature, what true nature would be and is. We can truly desire only when we can be our true selves. And that's why the desire is no longer seen as the need for things, objects, and people, but instead is seen as something different, quite the opposite, is essentially seen from the point of view of our divine nature. So it's about expressing our true color, our vitality, expressing and creating our world. Now this is the alchemical principle that is the very principle that gives us the main direction. It gives us the possibility to say, okay, from now on, from this moment on, I am going to really understand who I am, and what I want, and I'm going to express exactly that. I am done with being essentially a beggar that begs life for everything I have, all this wealth in my hands that I am ready to use, ready to spend, ready to express. Now, that being said, of course I'd like to talk about the theory of alchemy, but alchemy is really a practical science. And when I say practical, I mean that to be alchemists, to start on this path, you have to do. You really have to practice it. We can enter and tune with this frequency, but only when we express something. And so for this very reason, I now would like to guide you, for those of you that want to do it, I would like to guide you through a meditation to enter in the center of ourselves, and then from there, discovering that desire that is now being inspired to us, not by our mind or by our needs, but rather inspired by our true spiritual part, our divine spark that has a broader, bigger vision of existence, and that can direct us, move us toward a different kind of path, a way that is most definitely going to be the best one for all of us, at least the best one right now in this specific moment of our lives. So to do this, it's a very simple meditation. I will just ask you, for those of you that will decide to do it, I will just ask you to follow me by using a specific breathing. Now, this breathing is going to help us enter inside of ourselves, and it's going to help us touch those deep parts of our soul that just can't wait to finally communicate with us. Because they have the real desire of expressing themselves, and we just really have to open the doors and let them out. That's all we have to do. We really only have to move our attention, shift it, and focus it on something different. So to do this, I'm going to ask you to just find a comfortable position. And we are going to use a specific position for this exercise, for this meditation, which is what we call the Egyptian pose. Perhaps you've seen statues or paintings of pharaohs and other high or noble figures in Egypt that essentially sit on a throne with a straight back. Now that is a very specific position that essentially allows for the energy to flow very well inside us. It's almost like an electric circuit. It allows us, and especially our Western society, to really let this flow of energy flow nicely inside us. Because of course our society and our different characteristics also have to, interact with energies in slightly different ways. So this specific position is going to help us, or is going to help our energies flow better inside us. So again, we're going to sit, our hands rest on our legs, the back is straight, and we are just going to start to take slow and deep breaths. We breathe in through the nose, and we breathe out through the mouth. Breathe in through the nose, and breathe out through the mouth. And breath after breath, we can feel our body that rests against a chair, our feet that touch the floor, our hands that rest on our legs, and all of this helps us relax. All of this helps us slowly enter in connection and enter inside of ourselves. Breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the mouth, all of this relaxes us. And little by little, our eyes close and our sight from the outside instead focuses on the inside. It focuses on our center, that point of light, our center, which is where we all shine. And breath after breath, we give strength, light, and attention to this center of ours. We give it nourishment. Breathing in through the nose, we feel this point that grows and that shines brighter and brighter. It has such a beautiful color because it's our color. It is our light. And we breathe out through the mouth. Breath after breath, we feel that the energy grows inside us. The light also grows because it starts to radiate our whole body. It colors our whole body, and breath after breath, almost like a small flame, it enlightens our energetic parts, our vital aura. And breath after breath, this light, this color, fills now the entire room, the place where we are in. It's almost like a small sun that starts to radiate its light, its energy, and spreads it in the environment. And breath after breath, our light and frequency colors the rooms, the houses, the trees, everything that's around us. It's an infinite energy, just like that of the sun. And it just can't wait to express itself. This energy is ready to express itself. And so breath after breath, we really color with this energy the entire town or city we live in, and we are in, and we color it and touch it with our light. And then we do the same with the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, or the seas. The nature around us is colored and shines thanks to our light. And breath after breath, we see that everything, the whole world around us, vibrates on our same frequency. And so does the whole planet. Breath after breath, touch your frequency, your beautiful, unique frequency. And from there, this energy starts to color everything in the universe, not just our planet anymore. It colors the moon, the other planets and stars, and breath after breath, it colors the entire galaxy. Eventually our light combines itself with that of the sun. They become one. We vibrate and shine like the sun. And breath after breath, at the center of the sun, we find an even brighter point. It is a wonderful, beautiful point, and we focus our attention there. We enter inside of this place, not place. And we find ourselves in a familiar environment. It's an environment we recognize, or perhaps it is the first time we are seeing it, but it's something that feels familiar to us. We recognize it with our soul, and breath after breath, we see at the center of this environment a chair, or an armchair, a couch perhaps, a throne, who knows? You will all find a place, something special to sit on, and breath after breath, we can now finally sit on this object, and we feel that it's just perfect for us. Breath after breath, we realize that we are in that point of connection between our human part and our divine part. That point in which everything is one. There is no more separation, only union and awareness and presence. Breath after breath, we feel that we are in that place in which all questions find their answer, and in which all answers find their questions. And it's here that we can finally ask ourselves, today, in this moment of my life, of my existence, what do I desire? What is that spiritual direction, that need, that aspect I need to bring in my life that's going to make my life better, richer, more beautiful? Breath after breath, we ask ourselves this question inside us. And we feel that as we're asking ourselves this question, at the same time, an answer comes. And this answer may come through a vision or an emotion, with a mood, and breath after breath, we welcome it. We welcome whatever comes, because it'll be the right answer for our question. Like a puzzle, two pieces of the puzzle that finally meet, the question and the answer. And we are, right now, we are this answer. Breath after breath, we feel, we live inside us this question and this answer. It's a small treasure in our hands. And now, aware of this desire that already has found its answer, we can come back. But not before we show a sign of gratitude, perhaps an emotion. Not before we thank our divine part. Thank you for being here, and thank you for gifting us this divine spirit, this synchronic help, here and now. And breath after breath, we come back. We go back to that bright point in the sun, that point that shines, that point that generates, that enlightens. And by following the same light, we come back. We come back slowly, we go back to touching the whole solar system, and breath after breath, we feel now our very planet, our Earth, filled with its colors, the greens of the forests, the light blues of the seas, the browns of its earth and deserts, until eventually we return to our very territory, where we have a hill or a mountain, a sea or a river, our city or town, and breath after breath, we find ourselves back in our town or city. And breath after breath, we go back to that room, that place in which our physical body is present. And breath after breath, we feel our chest as it moves to follow the breath, the air that comes in through the nose, and the air that comes out through the mouth. And breath after breath, we can start to make some small movements with our hands, with our feet, with our legs, with the neck. Perhaps we can get rid of those small tensions accumulated on the body. We can stretch it a little bit so as to come back in the here and now, in the present, so as to anchor ourselves back in the physical body, this small dot that allows us to be in the here and now, that describes our life. And when we feel ready, we can open our eyes again and fully come back here. My suggestion right now is to take a piece of paper and a pen and to write down, right now, to write down your experience. To just take some time to describe what you were able to perceive, feel, or receive from this divine nature, from your spirit, from your soul, from your higher self. You can call it in many different ways, but essentially it's the center of us. That true, genuine, and immortal part. We know that the body is mortal. The body has its needs, it has its series of lists and requirements to exist. Our soul is just one big essence. It has all the energy and all the resources at its disposal. So if we put ourselves in that point of open communication, then from there we can generate the world and the experience we wish to live. Because we are part, a conscious part, of the process of creation itself. This is how an alchemist interprets the desires. An alchemist lives the concept of desire in this way. Desiring is the concept of the process of creation, the idea of going beyond the pre-established, predetermined path that is choosing. To choose and to determine with one's own free will, one's own future and destiny. That is the idea behind it. Thank you, Ragno. I'm just gonna let you all use a few moments. Also, if you want to write something in the chat, perhaps a sentence, perhaps a comment. But definitely I would also recommend all of you to write something down, like Orango mentioned, so as to remember this moment. So, as you're doing this, I'm just going to tell something to Aranya. We played a little game with Orango. Right now, we are going to go through a series of questions, and these are questions we received in the last few days, and they're essentially connected to this concept that we're talking about and researching. So, give us very straightforward, direct answers. So, of course, this is a topic that we can talk about from so many different perspectives, but I hope that you were all able to write something down. And if not, I hope that you'll be able to do it soon. But, so this famous concept of desiring. This famous concept. Someone asks, for example, and here, of course, you can base it on your experience and the things you did, or some of the things your students shared with you, but what do you think are the most common mistakes people make when they try to desire or manifest something? So I perhaps could say, what can you do to avoid said mistakes, or what could we inadvertently do to actually push our desires away from us? Is there something like that? So what is your point of view about it? Of course. So here we're actually entering in the field of synchronicity. So the field of essentially directing the frequency, the energy, the events to then manifest, like we said earlier, something. The desire, we could also define it as an event or something that will happen, something that can be, something that could be, for example, a relationship with someone, or an object, a desired object that finally enters in our life, a state of consciousness, and etc. The important thing is to let the field as open as we can let it be. Because if we trust this higher intelligence, the one we just felt, the one of our soul, then that intelligence knows a lot better than us which is truly the best thing for us. I'm going to use an example here. If we are in a moment of our life in which perhaps we're thinking about changing our job because it doesn't satisfy us anymore, because we don't feel like it's right for us, because we would like a higher paycheck, okay, well, it's good, of course, to think, I want to have another job. Of course, all desires are good, but the advice is this one. Let the field, let the desire as open as it can be. What does that mean? It means that if I think I want to become a banker of X bank and I want to work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and I want to dress in gray and I want to earn this much, well, that is a very limited and closed desire, because it essentially encages the energy, the possibilities, the synchronicity itself. And instead, if I ask myself, okay, but so what are the things I am truly interested in? So for example, I would like to do a job that satisfies me. I would like to do a job that's also going to pay me well. I would like to do something that makes me feel good and that essentially creates an environment with other people that become my friends. This kind of situation, this kind of desire is open. It gives us the possibility to really expand and look at a broader perspective in front of us and perhaps find answers that otherwise we would have not even seen. That's the secret, to not close but rather do the opposite and open. And we can truly do it and apply it for any kind of desire and to any kind of desire. Thank you. So, in the meantime, if you see us frozen for a few seconds, it's because this Wi-Fi is sometimes a little shaky. But let's move on to our next question. So, the main topic or theme of this question are the emotions. So, when emotions come in the way, perhaps you are scared, you don't have enough courage. So essentially, when emotions get in the way, and still we desire something, but perhaps we can also be scared of that thing, even though it may sound like a paradox. So when emotions come in the way, what do we do, and what kind of role do emotions play in this game of desiring? Emotions, first of all, in alchemy are described as the language of our soul. So essentially, that language that connects the human part with the divine part and allows for the communication between the two. Well, that's what emotions are. We live as long as we express and feel emotions. When there is a moment, a day, in which we feel no emotions at all, that day is a day not lived. Our memories are a lot more alive and accessible when they're connected with emotions. It's difficult to remember, for example, when we went to the pharmacy to go buy that medicine, if there's no particular emotion attached to that memory, right? So the emotion is important. For what concerns our sense of desire, well, that's where we have the big power of imagination, which essentially is the idea of generating inside us that state, that mood, that emotion. So to generate it inside us as if essentially we already had the result of this desire right here in front of us in our hands. What did we just do? We essentially just went to that point in which the desire is already there, has already manifested itself, and that's why we can express it from there. The emotion, we have to connect it not to the idea of I would like in the future to have this or to live here. No, but to the idea of saying right now, how do I feel with that kind of desire now that I'm in it? How do I live? If I see it from that perspective, I can manifest it and make it happen sooner, essentially. Thank you, Ranyo. So before we let Ranyo put a nice little cherry on top or bow, like I say, on this topic, so since we're almost at the end of the week, I'm just going to share some information with you. So together we discovered and explored and researched different aspects and knowledge of the Damanhurian experience and knowledge. Now this was with the idea of having fun, of sharing emotions, and feel good as we were exploring these interesting topics. So as a way to find paths and ways that can essentially help us open to joyous emotions, positive emotions, emotions of brotherhood and connection. We are in a very interesting point of time. We also said this in our previous appointment. The world is really challenging us, or anyways is really opening new opportunities and new paths for us. And it really becomes important now more than ever to start and connect to ourselves, to the others, and create a field that will then be able to help us and give us and offer us support in this path of self-fulfillment and exploration of our talent. Sometimes people write us, since I often interact with many of you, they write that they feel the need to express that fire they feel inside them. They need to express it because they feel that it's not very happy because it's not being expressed. Perhaps we're going to find out that the recipe to be happy and the secret is exactly that, to express the beauty we contain, to be able to connect with it, to find it, and then express it with the others. So I hope that these moments together, during which we talked about dreams, lucid dreams, healing, living with consciousness, we meditated, we also talked about alchemy today and desire. So I hope that all of this can essentially represent a series of synchronic and magic ingredients that can activate those stars you all have in your eyes with the desire you all have and share, which is essentially to bring something beautiful to the world. Today, as I said earlier, we are officially opening the possibility to sign up and join our path we call the Wisdom Lab. It is a subscription through which you will be able to access a field of knowledge, tools, meditations, essentially a container with all the different disciplines we explore through our appointments. And this is one of our many attempts to be useful as Damanhur, to be useful to the world. The Damanhur has done so much, of course, from creating the temples, a whole community, and so much more, so many other projects. And this is one of them, a project we work on with the idea and the desire to manifest and express what we learn in this very original lifestyle, in this very original project and reality, and essentially do something that's going to help people access and explore and then express a type of knowledge that we believe to be very beneficial. And essentially we know that it works because it works on us. We also receive positive feedbacks all the time from the people that study with us. And I know that this is, again, a very challenging moment. So this goes for us as well. Of course, we all have to affront challenges. We are also not perfect, and we are just learning as we go. But essentially what we do is, day by day, by using this lifestyle that's based on these principles and knowledge, we try to share this positive example. So if you like all of this, then you can start to study with us, you can start to get to know us, you can start to meditate, and to essentially use these tools, and then you'll be the judge and you'll see if they can help you change your life, but most importantly, if they resonate with you and excite you and you have fun as you use them and discover them. So tonight, you're going to receive a whole series of information if you're interested in the Wisdom Lab, and I just can't wait to study with you and to research with all of you. So that being said, all I have left to say is essentially ask our Ragnolattuga to put a nice little cherry on top of this special appointment. So, Ragno, what is the last thing you would like to say about this interesting topic, but also this moment we are in? What do you want to really underline? Okay, so let's start, as you said, from this specific moment. Now, this is a very particular moment of our life. The world is so full of uncertainties and problems and doubts and chaos, really. So, it really is the best moment. Because the best moment is when everything is moving. It's the best moment to find our center again. That is really the only certainty we have and we can have ourselves. So my suggestion and my hope for all of you is to ignite this alchemical fire, this inner light inside you, so as to then make your whole life shine, and so as to make your life wonderful, beautiful, and the experience of essentially once again becoming the protagonists of this big adventure. So this is what I hope for all of you. Thank you so much, Ragno, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing with us this first edition of the Wisdom Week, an entire week dedicated to wisdom. And we had a lot of fun, and I hope you did too. We started to get some very good feedbacks, so it looks like you also had fun, which makes me really happy, and I hope I'm going to see you again very soon. For us, magic is really the magic connected to doing and being present, and so I hope I'm going to be able to meet you either in Damanhur or in our virtual online classrooms. So I hope that we're also going to be able to live and share and build a society, a culture that's beautiful and positive and that just aligns with our principles. So thank you, everyone. I hope I'm going to see you soon. Big, big hugs to all of you. Thank you, Ragno, for joining us tonight in this last appointment. And I'll see you very soon in our courses or from behind these screens. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.